Well, hello everyone. Welcome to All Things Chadwick. I am not cooking today. I had a granola bar for breakfast with tea, and for lunch I had leftover, like the very last little bit of pimento cheese. So pimento cheese sandwich and some tortilla chips for lunch with some tea. So it's been a real simple day and I'm not cooking today. I may make potato soup later this afternoon for tonight. I'm not sure I'll video that, but we'll see. Anyway, it's another beautiful day, really cool day. It was kind of cold outside this morning, but a beautiful day here in South Central Kentucky. It's amazing how just 2 days have made such an incredible difference in the color of the change in the leaves. But anyway, speaking of changes in the weather, I'm sure most of you notice this wherever you may live when the weather changes, especially when the weather changes and it gets cold, that neurons and protons and electrons all change in our own body, in our system. And every time I touch something, like I turned this lamp on a little bit ago, electricity. Absolutely every time I get out of my car and go to close the door, I hate to say I dread it, but I will pull my sleeve down and try to close the door with my sleeve. But I know the next thing I touch, a doorknob, anything, I know that I'm going to get shocked. So sometimes I just take it. So yeah, all that the air is colder and there's something about less humidity in the air. And so we get this charge. And because of that charge with the protons, I think neurons are nothing, protons and electrons, then we automatically are going to have a discharge because of the charge that we have in our systems when we touch something that's metal or touch another person, or touch your dog. We have reached down, hi sweetie, and give Gabrielle a shock, and he thinks he's been, disciplined for something, and kind of whimper and run off like, why did you do that to me? And it just makes you feel terrible. So that's one of the cons, if you were to give it a term, of good old winter here in South Central Kentucky. The main reason for this little video today is to give you some news. Let me just explain to those of you who do know, but especially those of you who don't know, we live on a relatively small farm in the county. We live about 4 miles from the center of from the city center, like the public square, courthouse, all the action. So we live in a relatively calm and quiet part of the county, and we really love it here. We've been here nearly 20 years. And again, we live on a farm, so we have lots of space for flowers and plants and a nice big patio full of stuff, flowers and plants and potted things and cactus and succulents, all those things. And we have a really big garden, so probably like 100 feet by 100 feet. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's something yards by yards. Anyway, a nice big garden. And we have, for nearly the entire time we've lived here, had a poultry farm. So we have about 3 acres where we have, let me get this straight now, because sometimes I leave something out. We have chicken, we have ducks, we have geese, we have turkeys, we do have some guinea fowl, we have quail, and then we have a few rabbits. They're not poultry, I know. Some of you are thinking that's not poultry, but we do have a few rabbits. A few that are in like a thing we made, a hutch. I guess you would call it a hutch. And yes, the creatures that we raise here are primarily for, a food resource. We don't make pets out of them, but some people do. We've given away rabbits to people on many occasions, and they make wonderful pets, but most of them will be harvested at some point. We sell them, or we put them in the freezer, and we use them this winter or next spring. And the same with the chickens and everything else. Um, and we do love duck. Duck is delicious. Quail is delicious. We have never prepared a goose. We may sometime, but we have not yet. And we love turkey. And we sell a lot of things to friends and family, as well as things in the garden. But the reason I say all that about the farm is to say on the farm, things happen just like they do in nature. Sometimes a hawk will come along and swoop down out of nowhere and take a chicken. Very rarely, thank God, or knock on wood, or jump up and down, or whatever you want to do. But we're grateful that very rarely do we lose an animal to a hawk. We do have a dog, Carmelo, that lives down on the farm, and he has a nice protective sanctuary in the wintertime. But he takes care of anything that might want to attack some of our poultry. So we never have we do have coyotes in the area and so forth, but I don't know that we've ever lost anything to land animals. If we've lost anything, it's usually to a hawk. And we do keep a boom boom, so sometimes we scare hawks off. I don't think I would be a good enough shot to ever hit one, and it's illegal, so I wouldn't want to do that anyway. But we're used to the fact that occasionally you lose an animal. Sometimes we'll have a broody hen that sets on 12 or 14 chicks, and we will have 3 eggs that don't hatch and they get tossed, and we have, say, 11 chicks, and maybe there's a weakling or the little, sometimes even more than 1, 2 or 3, 4 or 5 chicks that just don't survive more than a few minutes or even a few days. And we're used to that. Now, when the kids were little, they would weep and grieve over lost little creatures, but as they got older, they realized it's just nature, it's just part of what happens. So, let's see, the disappointing news. After we spent a couple of days absolutely falling in love with a little chick named Chip. Chip, drum roll, sad drum roll, like the Queen of England drum roll. Boom, 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 boom. Is no longer with us. Chip is no longer with us. Tiny little guinea fowl. Isn't he sweet? I wish you would. And look at those big, beautiful feet. And I don't want to let him go too far because he will run right out of my hand. But anyway, he's a sweetie, and we love you, Chip. We're not sure what happened to Chip. He was in the video last night. We played with him some in the den, and he was so happy, and he was eating good and drinking good, even after just his second day. We had taught him how to eat by doing the little peck thing. He went into his little, we had him a little box with his water and his sawdust and, where we always put chicks that have to come in the house, maybe if we have 1 or 2 that fall out of the nest and don't really associate with the mother. And we raise them inside for a few days or a few weeks. But Chip was wonderful. Even later in the night before I went to bed, 10:30, 11 o'clock, I would hear him chirp when I went in to brush my teeth and talk to him, touch him on the head. He was just fine. This morning at 5 o'clock, Chip was just lying there peacefully, deceased. So I got so many messages. Oh my goodness, that's so cute. Oh, that's so sweet. Oh, even people that say, I just love him. It's much easier to love some animals than it is to love some people. So how disappointing that after so many people, I think that video has upwards of 100 views, and I'm sure I got 30 messages, either private or on the page or text or whatever, about poor Chip. But we're grateful that we had a little time with Chip, and we're glad that you got to see a tiny little guinea fowl. And Chip went to the garden this morning in just a shallow grave, and we're okay with that, even though we're disappointed. Especially Rosa, oh my gosh, I loved him, he was so sweet. So Chip is no longer with us. Aside from that, it's been a busy day. I got up early and hit the ground running. And I've done three, I have a number of jobs, I guess, a number of things that I do in my career as a musician. And so I've accomplished three things this morning, and even went to a meeting with someone and provided interpreter skills. I also do some interpreting, not professionally. And now I am headed to the theater to work on wigs and for the upcoming show, and to do a couple of alterations to costumes. And then I am coming home to, hopefully we'll be home early enough to throw some potato soup on and let that cook for an hour or so. So I hope you're having a great day. And I know I said a whole lot to say, a couple of things really, but I hope to see you soon, and I will be more entertaining than this in the future, I promise. Goodbye. I will show you how pretty it is out this window. Look at the leaves. Aren't they beautiful? Everything's so beautiful. I love it. Anyway, so long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen.